Many people have been interested since the release of the second episode of the amazing digital Circus, where Gummigu disappeared. Did Kane delete it permanently? And why did he actually do it at all? Hello everyone, Digital Circuit Theory is in touch. Subscribe to the channel, like this video, and we're getting started. We return to our circus tent again to try to figure out the mysteries and riddles here. Gummigu is loved by many fans of the digital circus. I'm not talking about the shippers, but that's a completely different story. We will touch on the reasons for our story and ask ourselves if Gummigu had a chance to stay in the circus and become a real friend for Pomni, and where did he go at all? Is our good old Gummigu alive? There are no clear answers, although there are some details that we can cling to and try to guess how bad everything is. Perhaps someone will not like these conclusions, or maybe someone will understand the essence of the digital circus as the universe in which our heroes live. To begin with, let's ask the main question. Why did Kane delete Gummigu at all? In principle, it is not difficult to guess why Kane did this. He himself voices the reason. If Kane starts confusing an NPC with a human, who knows what might happen? Apparently something terrible. But what happens if one NPC from another card gets into the tent? Why wouldn't the player who likes this NPC make a friend for him? And it's enough to just leave it, but the problem is much deeper than it seems at first glance. In general, it is worth understanding that Kane is part of the digital circus system. It keeps order and does not allow any errors in the system, even the most insignificant ones. Gummigu itself is a system error, and he became one only after he flew off the map and eventually met his own model. That is, not when he entered the tent, but earlier. The system does not provide for NPCs to fly off the map and gain their own self-awareness. This is already considered a system error, and in a good way, Gummigu should have been erased as soon as it flew off the map, and then returned to its original position or to the quest location, as happens in some games. But, apparently, everything is completely different here. Under the circumstances of bugs, the character can still leave the map, and then he realizes that he is not real. Moreover, he gets out of the place for which he was created. Kane noticed this problem and just fixed it, but if we assume, could Gummigu theoretically stay in the circus? No, because, as I said earlier, it would be a system error. Kane himself expressed concern for this situation, because it is not known what will happen if NPCs start going beyond their map with the quest assigned to them. They are just obstacles that need to be overcome, Gummigu said, and he is right. The whole point of his existence was precisely this: to fulfill his function as an opponent while having some kind of background embedded in his mind so that the NPC could not be a cardboard opponent, but what kind of personality and have a character. And it's not even so much that Kane began to confuse the NPCs with real people. How much is the fact that Kane simply does not need to make system errors like NPC penetration into the tent, or even beyond its own quest location? After all, this is not according to the plan of the system. It doesn't matter if the character flew out by accident or by invitation. I think Kane can easily distinguish NPCs from humans. After all, he immediately recognized the pilot as a human being. And when Gummigu came in the second episode, it also immediately became clear to him who was superfluous here. Perhaps Kane, having said this phrase, only generalized, if he starts making an exception, then the system of the digital world may come to an end, and therefore it is so important for him not to make any exceptions, and if anything, delete the NPC if he got into the wrong place. Now it's time to ask another question of interest to everyone. Gummigu is alive. Killed. Is it Kane? Actually, let's start with the words Ragatha. She said that Kane likes to add NPCs again, so maybe he will come back. Maybe Kane will ask Pomni about it, and if it does not contradict the system, Kane will add him again, but most likely this is not the case. And it is unlikely that Kane will make any exceptions. The whole point of people staying in the circus is like, as Pomni said, role-playing and all human interaction. That is, the player with the NPC. This is a quest. Everything is limited to them, so if Gummigu returns again, then in some other quest. Many have expressed an interesting theory that Gummigu was not deleted, but teleported back to Candy Canyon, but it was transferred not as a character, but back to the model. But how is it if the model is separate from it? Most likely, after the quest in the Candy Kingdom of the Canyon, the map was closed and all the characters also disappeared, like Gummigu. or return to their original position to their models, and the map was erased, if their reuse is allowed. So, it will either be for another quest, or they will remain gathering dust for the time being. But will Gummigu remember Pomni and everything that happened to him? It's a good question. Unfortunately, there is no answer to it yet. But if NPCs are able to be aware of themselves, it's possible that they may have a memory, but Kane doesn't care about it, and it's unlikely that the digital circus system provided for some kind of memory or awareness. So Kane can recreate the models or add them again by giving them a new or previous command. It will mean that those characters will not remember anything if it is not within the framework of the quest. Let's assume that Kane can add the Candy Kingdom location again, but with a new task, so to speak, an update. The memory of the characters can be preserved, since we have already seen Princess Lulilalu, and we do not need to get to know her again. It's the same with the others, but they can only remember their function. After all, as I said earlier, everything that happened with Gummigu is a system error that Kane fixed anyway. Here we have the answer to the main question, or one of the main questions. Is Gummigu alive, or is it gone forever? By and large, Gummigu has never lived. He is not a living being, oddly enough, but did Kane finally spray him into atoms, or rather, into pixels? I wouldn't say that either. Perhaps it was that part of Gummigu's personality that was destroyed and dissolved, which first performed its assigned function and then began to realize itself because it flew off the map. Perhaps Gummigu is alive because there is his model, but it is unlikely that he remembers everything. More precisely, he does not remember anything. His model was and remains as soon as the Candy Canyon quest starts again, or with an update, the Gummigu character will be added again along with the rest, and they will all perform their assigned commands, and better than that, the character should be kept in the dark, as well as others, because after completing the quest, they will all return to their original position, and this makes it quite sad. But on the other hand, we all understand that at least he has not completely disappeared. And this scene, as if with the death of Gummigu, sets a good meaning, especially after what we saw before, when a creature that seems to realize the meaninglessness of its existence quickly accepts everything as it is and tries to start a new life, but it is immediately broken off. By the way, it seemed strange to me that no one warned Gummigu. If, say, Ragatha knew that Kane likes to add NPCs repeatedly, then why didn't she know what would happen to Gummigu as soon as he entered the portal and ended up in the tent? None of the heroes thought about it. Okay, Pomni, she could use some comfort. But the others didn't ask themselves, why is this character coming with them? I'm not saying that he would have been better advised to stay here and accept his fate, because he didn't run away from it anyway. But in any case, the scene is very revealing and quite creepy. And what do you think? Where did Gummigu go, and why did Kane actually delete it? Write your thoughts and your theories in the comments.